City.
Actually, that's spot on.
It is spot on.
All the competition that try to compete.
Everything is spot on.
Yo, welcome back to Spot On Sports. This is another episode of My Point Exactly. Got some very familiar faces in the building. My brother Roger and Ant. What's happening, fellas?
How y'all doing? How y'all doing?
I'm a little sad, man. I ain't gonna lie. Bittersweet football season over. You know.
Yeah, I hate it. I love football season so much.
It ended bad though. Horrible game.
217 days left.
It's a sad time of year, man. Well, let's recap on the game. Kansas City. What happened, man? We all thought they was gonna take the repeat and bring it back to Kansas City, like they said, but TB12, he was a little bit too much for
him. You want to go first, Ant?
Yeah, let me go ahead and touch on this now that I can recap the fact that Black Stradamus as usual again predicting the future. Me mentioning the fact that offensive line and the defensive line was going to be the deciding factor of this game 100%. From the beginning, from the opening snap, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they rushed for and they sat in cover 2, and they felt as though that their front 4 was going to be able to dominate. And one thing you understand about cover 2, those 2 high safeties make it impossible for you to do short passes. They make it impossible for you to do the quick screens and the slants. As long as that front 4 is getting home, you will not be able to throw on that cover 2. And because that offensive line was so devastated, because Andy Reid just was like, we are refusing to run the ball at all. We just aren't running it. I don't understand. Andy Reid does it again. We just will not run the ball. Tampa Bay, they won the game in the trenches. Tom Brady, he executed the ways that he's supposed to execute. He didn't just run the score up or anything like that. It was slow. It was methodical. And he did what needed to be done. Whereas that offensive line of Kansas City, injured, decimated, and it showed.
It sounded like Andy Reid kind of gave the game to him. But what I was getting at, I wanted to ask you guys, just seeing the way that Tampa defense just dominated the entire game. Nobody saw that coming. So with the other teams in the league being on post, everybody watched the game. You would think the other teams is going to copy what Tampa Bay did. Do y'all think that this is going to bring trouble for the Kansas City offense in the future, for them to be so dominant in the future? Do you think we're still going to see the same Chiefs offense after seeing, you can say the Buccaneers exposed them if you want, but I don't know. That's what I'm saying. They had a beat up offensive line. So
yeah, go ahead and handle this. I'll go after you on this one. Go ahead and handle this. I'll go after you.
Do we expect to see the same
right now?
Well, it all depends on the free agency. I feel like they may lose some players, but they're going to keep that main core intact. And you got to think about it, that Super Bowl game. Both tackles are out. So I'm not going to lie. I give TB his credit. He is the GOAT. He did his thing. It was based on the defense. Like, if the defense didn't perform the way they're supposed to with an injured offensive line, that's embarrassing. So they did their job on that. You got to think about it. Mahomes was hurt. If you watch football, you know that Mahomes was hurt. That toe definitely played a factor. I don't care what you guys say. He was not the same. He looked like he was playing with one leg. You got to think about it. All they had to do is double team Kelsey and Hill. And, of course, with that defensive line, they were in the backfield the whole time. So what can he do? So, yeah, they'll be fine. You got to think about it. They still had more total yards than the Buccaneers. They still have 48 more passing yards. So it was just the offensive line. But they'll be fine. They'll be straight.
One thing I will say, it would be different if the Chiefs took a soft road to the championship. They did have to beat the Bills, who is probably the biggest upstart in the AFC running right now. There's a couple teams that have some things going, but nobody that's just like, oh my goodness, the Chiefs have to worry about them within the next year or two besides the Bills. And with that, you have to understand this would be, had this same game happened with 3 healthy offensive linemen, I would have a lot more to say about my concerns with the Chiefs. Had this been 31-9 and the Chiefs were healthy, 3 healthy offensive linemen, one of the best offensive lines in the league, by the way. I believe they lost an all-pro offensive lineman. So one of the best offensive linemen in the league, one of the best offensive lines in the league. Had this same thing happen, completely different conversation. There's a reason that all you're going to hear about for the next week, the next month, up until next season is TB12 and how Tom Brady changed the culture. There's not going to be a whole lot of negativity stemming going at the Chiefs simply because that offensive line was so decimated, so devastated. It may be a reason why Andy Reid was nervous to run the ball, especially going down 7 points early, because without a good offensive line, how are they going to be able to actually get production out of a rookie who's playing in the Super Bowl and Le'Veon Bell, who's obviously old at this point?
And I agree with you on that, because they couldn't run the ball and they couldn't start off the play action, because what's the point of doing the play action when they're already in the back of the field? Like,
they're sitting in cover 2. They're going to sit in the cover 2.
You couldn't really do anything. I agree with you with that.
Okay. Well, we can all give the Chiefs that. If the Chiefs was handicapped this year and they're going to be back healthy next year, barring we don't know who's going to come back and who's going to leave, out of both teams, which team do y'all see most likely return back to the Super Bowl?
I'm gonna kick this off right here. It's clearly obvious the Chiefs gonna be back. The way you gotta think about it, the past 5 seasons, the AFC team's been the same. Patriots 3 years, Chiefs 2 years. In the NFC, we have a different team every year.
It's a different team every year.
But we got a lot of changes coming this year. A lot of quarterback switching might be going on. We got the rookie quarterbacks coming in. We got Joe Burrow coming back from injury. Not saying that the Bengals are going to be a threat or anything, but, people coming back from injury. So,
right. But listen, you know what quarterback not switching teams? Patrick Mahomes.
You are also going to get the best out of teams that are playing Tampa Bay now who think that Tom Brady hasn't aged. So they're going to give Tom Brady their best. And you got to think about all of the contracts that came to Tampa Bay on kind of a mercenary type of contract. They're going to have to retool, similar to how in basketball, really good teams get a whole lot of 1-year deals to try to win now. Tampa Bay is going to have to replace some of those 1-year deals or re-sign those same people. Running it back does give everybody another year on you. People are going to look at what the Saints did. People are going to look at what the Rams did. And people are going to look to see if it can be duplicated. And that offensive line is still porous. Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary is still porous. But they were able to catch teams at the right time and got hot at the right time. The Saints were injured. The Chiefs were injured. They have Green Bay's number. Their defensive scheme fits perfectly into the hands to play against Green Bay. So they're going to have Green Bay's number. The Saints will still be there. The Rams will still be there with a new quarterback who has a chip on his shoulder. The new quarterback of New Orleans will have the chip on their shoulder. San Francisco will be coming back from injury. These are things that Tampa Bay is going to have to worry about. The NFC is like Borderlands. You never know what's going to happen.
The one thing I got to say, though, for the Chiefs to make it back to the Super Bowl, they got to work on stopping the run. They
need a running back.
Yeah, the Buccaneers had 145 yards running only. That's not good, especially in the Super Bowl. You got to stop that. So they definitely got to do something with the draft, maybe free agency. They're stopping the run. Secondary solid, though.
Do we place any of this blame on the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, Eric Bieniemy? I mean, just because they didn't really try to attempt to run the ball much. I mean, I understand y'all say it might have been a good
trenches. The trenches matter so much. Those big people, there's a reason that we don't know it, but those big people get paid so much in comparison to other positions, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Those offensive linemen, especially those tackles and guards, are going to be the thing that makes the engine go on a team. If you do not have it, you do not have a team.
And they understood that. That's what Trey said last week. Trey said he would think that Andy Reid knows, Trey, quote unquote, he said Andy Reid knows his line is poo-poo. So he gonna be ready. That was what he said. And when we watched the game, it looked like he played the same game plan as if he had his starting tackles.
He tried. As you can see, they tried to do a lot of slants and short passes and things like that. But all they needed was for their offensive line to hold up somewhat for that to work. Their offensive line did not hold up at all. So they sat in cover two. They cannot run the ball. That's the only way you get a team out of cover two is running the ball. You cannot throw a team out of cover two. So with that, they sat in it. And it's like, okay, can this offensive line hold up for 3 seconds, for 5 seconds, for these short passes, for these slants? Tyreek Hill is a decent route runner. Travis Kelce is the wide receiver of the two of them. Tyreek Hill is the athlete. Travis Kelce is the receiver. So with that, you double Kelce. He's going to get his, but you double Kelce and you make sure Tyreek Hill gets nothing down the field. And with that, you sit in cover two. And they were stuck. That offensive line did not hold up one snap.